Windows Dreamer presents How to Write a Short Story. Number 1. Remember the basics. There are a few things to keep in mind when writing a short story: characters, setting, problem, and solution. This might seem obvious, but getting back to the basics can often be a good place to start. Number 1. Characters. One of the most crucial parts of writing a novel is developing unique, believable characters. Character profiles with the characters' likes and dislikes, strengths and weaknesses, and personal histories can be useful in achieving this. A strong character should develop and change over the course of the narrative, picking up a lesson from their mistakes and changing over time. Writers may develop believable characters that readers can relate to and use in intriguing stories that captivate their audience. Firstly, let's talk about character personality. Each character ought to have a distinctive personality that sets them apart from the rest. Think about their principles, habits, quirks, and loves and dislikes. Another important factor is goals. What are the characters' goals in the narrative? How do they match up with their driving force? Another important factor is growth. Character development should occur at various points throughout the narrative. Take into account how they develop and alter as a result of their experiences. Now coming to backstory. Characters ought to have a past that shapes who they are today, thinking about their relationships, experiences, and upbringing. The most important factor is to add some spices to the story, isn't it? Let's talk about obstacles. What obstacles prevent the character from attaining their objectives? How are they responding to these challenges? Mention that. To write a good novel. Give your audience a souvenir to remember your story. What can be better than powerful dialogues? Each character should have their own distinctive voice and manner of speaking in the dialogue. Take attention to the language, cadence, and tone that they use. Flaws. Nobody is perfect, and thus be true. People should be flawed. Everybody has weaknesses which add to their character's relatability and intrigue. Moving forward to our next point, relationships. What sort of interaction are there between the characters? Do they cooperate to solve problems or do they have disagreements? Lastly, roles. Assess each character's place in the overall narrative while determining their role. Do they perform a certain function or do they have a more important function? Think about it. Number 2. Setting. For a story to be immersive and credible, the setting must be created in vivid detail. The era, location, and culture of the world the narrative is situated in should all be taken into account while designing the setting. Firstly, let's talk about time and place. A well-crafted location and perfect timing story depth and complexity, increasing its appeal to readers and helping them remember it. This is true whether the setting is a vast city or an isolated mountain town. Secondly, mood. What is the general tone and atmosphere of the scene? Is it gloomy and menacing or bright and happy? Thirdly, history. What has happened in the setting's past in terms of history? What effect has had on the present? Think about it. Fourth, physical environment, things like what are the architecture, environment, and landscapes like? What is the environment like? Talk about it. Fifth, infrastructure and technology. How advanced is the environment in these areas? What effects do these factors have on the plot and the characters? Sixth, symbolism. What metaphors and symbols are connected to the setting in the story? What do they stand for in the narrative? 7. Culture. How would you describe the local culture? What societal norms, traditions, and practices exist? 8th. Economics, politics. What is the political and economic climate like in this particular setting? Who is in and who is out of power? Number 3. Problem. Making sure you have characters that have problems, desires, emotions, etc. Just like real people is crucial to bringing your story to life. Every good story has some sort of problem that happens to build tension and keep your readers reading. In the end, you don't have to tie up everything nicely with a bow, but make sure there is some sort of a way to address the problem that will evoke an emotional response in your reader. Often, this emotional response is key to good story that will keep people reading for generations. Stakes. High stakes should be associated with the major problem. This implies that the solution to the issue must significantly affect the character or the setting of the novel. Complexity. The issue shouldn't be overly straightforward. It should have layers and nuances that make it interesting and engaging. Resolution. The issue ought to be handled satisfactorily. This means that resolution must be plausible, make sense, and bring the story to be satisfying conclusion. Characters. The issue must to be connected to the characters' objectives. It ought to test them and compel them to develop and alter. Timeline. There should be a sense of urgency about the issue. The main protagonist ought to be racing against time to find a solution before it's too late. Impact. How the issue is resolved should have a big effect on the characters and the story's setting. The problem stakes should be reflected in this impact. Tension. The issue should lead to conflict and tension in the narrative. The character should encounter challenges as a result. Obstacles. The protagonist should face challenges as they attempt to solve the issue. These challenges ought to be connected to the issue at hand, heightening the story's suspense and conflict. Theme. The issue should be connected to the story's topic. It ought to aid in reiterating the story's lesson or the moral. Stick to the genre. Lastly, for a story to have an impact on the reader, there must be a satisfactory conclusion or result. The answer must make sense, be plausible, be in line with the story's stakes, and be relevant to the topic. Also, it should result in character development for the primary characters and an emotional payoff for the reader. The resolution should provide closure and the reader with a sense of pleasure by having a substantial impact on the characters and the story's setting. That's all for today, folks. Later, skater. Please do subscribe us if you like our video. Thank you.